The sound of the temple bell rang sadly, breaking the quiet atmosphere of the autumn morning in the village. The leaves fell gently, covering the damp ground of the village cemetery. Today is the day to see off Minna, an 8-year-old girl who passed away too early after a serious illness. Minna's parents, Mr. and Mrs. Domick and Sister Elena, stood silently next to the small white coffin. The pain was evident on their faces, their eyes red from crying too much. Elena clutched the bouquet of white chrysanthemums in her hands, her fingers trembling as if she was trying to hold on to the last of her daughter's warmth. Around the coffin, villagers and relatives stand in a circle. Everyone wears white, dignified clothes according to custom. A choking sound sounded from time to time, blending with the sound of the wind whistling through the old bamboo canopy on the shore of the village pond. The monk from the nearby temple stepped forward. He opened the sutra in his hand, and in a deep voice, uttered supplication prayers for the deceased. The faint smell of frankincense wafted in the air as if to soothe the pain of those who stayed. Suddenly, a black crow with wings flew over, landing on the roof of Minna's coffin. The crow's cry echoed in the morning atmosphere, startling everyone. Many people think this is a bad omen. Others believe that it is the soul of baby Minna who wants to say her last goodbye. Just as everyone was buzzing, an unimaginable thing happened. The crow suddenly spoke in a human voice. "Mom, I'm Minna." That sentence was like a lightning strike in everyone's ears. Elena, Minna's mother, collapsed, and was picked up by Domick. Everyone around him gasped, not believing his ears. The monk stopped chanting, his eyes wide open, and stared at the black crow. The crow continued to speak, her voice as sweet and clear as Minna's when she was alive. "Mom, I don't want to go yet. I want to stay with my mom and dad. Please don't bury me." The whole cemetery was immersed in eerie silence. No one dared to breathe hard, fearing that even a small noise could break this strange moment. Sister Elena, still supported by Mr. Domick, slowly stood up. Her tearful eyes stared at the crow, as if trying to find a sign of her daughter in the bird's black eyes. "Minna, girl, is it really you?" Her voice trembled, both hopeful and afraid. The crow jumped down from the roof of the coffin, perched on Elena's shoulder. He turned his head to look at her. His black eyes seemed to have a strange light. "Yes, Mom. Minna. I don't want to leave you and Dad." Mr. Domick stood next to his wife, feeling his whole body trembling. He couldn't believe his ears, but at the same time his heart seemed to be lit with a fire of hope. He reached out and lightly touched the crow's feathers, feeling a strange warmth emanating from it. The monk, who remained the most calm, approached. He looked at the crow, and then at Mr. and Mrs. Domick and Sister Elena. A deep voice said, "This is really a strange thing. In my cultivation life, I have never witnessed anything like this. But we shouldn't jump to conclusions." The villagers were buzzing and talking. Some people think that this is a miracle, Minna has come back to life. Others think this could be someone's evil prank. But no one dared to do anything. They all stood still, waiting for the next development. Sister Elena, with the crow still perched on her shoulder, asked softly, "Minna, if you are really my Minna, can you tell me what you remember about us?" The crow was silent for a while, then said, "Mom, I remember you sang ABC to me every night. I remember my father often taking me to eat ice cream at Mr. Eric's shop. I miss the doll named Luna that my parents gave me for my last birthday." These private memories made Elena and Mr. Domick burst into tears. They hugged each other tightly, and the crow. Without a doubt, it was Minna, their little daughter. The monk stood next to him, his expression contemplative. "I have heard stories of rebirth, about the soul that cannot be transcended because it is still entangled in the world. But he never thought he would witness such a case with his own eyes." Suddenly, a thunderclap sounded in the clear sky, startling everyone. The rain began to fall gently at first, then quickly became heavy. But strangely, even though it was raining around, the area around Minna's coffin was completely dry. Everyone looked at each other in amazement. This is no longer an ordinary funeral. They are witnessing something far beyond the realm of common sense. While everyone was still stunned by the strange events, a familiar voice rang out from the crowd. Ms. Han, who is considered the most famous shaman in the region, walked out. She stared at the crow, then turned to Domik and Elena. "I've seen a lot of strange things in my life, but I've never seen anything like this," Ms. Han said in a deep voice. "Maybe Minna's soul isn't ready to leave. We need to find out why." The monk nodded in agreement. "Mrs. Han is right, we should not be in a hurry. Perhaps the burial should be postponed and learn more." Domik and Elena looked at each other, and then looked down at the crow that was perched on Elena's shoulder. They didn't know what to do, but in their hearts, a small glimmer of hope began to grow. "Minna," Elena said softly to the crow, "can you tell me why you don't want to go?" The crow was silent for a while and then said, "I'm very scared, Mom. It's dark and cold over there. I don't want to be alone. I want to stay with you. The crow's words made the hearts of those present tighten. They could feel fear and loneliness in Minna's voice. Mrs. Han walked closer, looked directly into the crow's eyes. "Grandma, you understand. I was afraid, but I had to understand that this was not the place I should be. My soul needs to be transcended." The crow suddenly cried out in a frightened voice. "I don't want to go. I want to stay with my parents." The monk paused, his expression pondering. "This is a complicated situation. We can't let Minna's soul get stuck between two worlds like this. It will harm both Minna and the family." Suddenly a strong wind blew through, sweeping away the yellow leaves. Everyone had to squint because of the wind. When they opened their eyes, they were astonished to realize that the crow had disappeared. "Minna!" cried Elena in panic, looking around. "Minna, where are you?" People began to search around, calling Minna's name, but there was no sign of the crow. At that moment, a small noise sounded from the coffin. Everyone turned around, their hearts pounding. Slowly, the lid of the coffin began to move. Brother Domik and Sister Elena, with trembling hands, slowly approached. They didn't dare to believe their eyes, but they also couldn't take their eyes off the scene that was unfolding. The lid of the coffin gradually opened, and a small hand appeared, grabbing the edge of the coffin. Next was a familiar face, baby Minna's face. She blinked as if she had just woken up from a long sleep. "Mom, Dad," Minna called weakly, her voice hoarse. Elena burst into tears and hurriedly hugged her daughter. Mr. Domik also rushed over, hugging both his wife and child tightly. The three of them hugged each other tightly, tears flowing incessantly. The surrounding crowd began to stir. Some screamed in amazement, some knelt down in prayer, and some fainted in shock. The incident was beyond the imagination of anyone present. The monk and Mrs. Han quickly approached, examined Minna, and felt the warmth and weak breathing of the little girl. Their eyes widened, unable to hide their surprise and emotion. "This is indeed a miracle," the monk exclaimed, his voice full of emotion. "In my entire cultivation life, I have never witnessed anything like this." Mrs. Han nodded in agreement, but her expression was still full of worry. "We need to take him to the hospital immediately. Although this is a miracle, my health is still very weak." Domik nodded and picked Minna up. Elena hurriedly took off her coat and wrapped it around her daughter. Everyone quickly dispersed, making way for the family to take Minna to the emergency room. On the way to the hospital, Minna was still dreaming, occasionally opening her eyes to look at her parents. The little girl weakly recounted what she had experienced. "I see myself flying high. I met my grandmother. She told me that I still have many things to do on Earth. She took me back, but I didn't know how to get back into my body. Then I saw the black crow, and I thought that was the only way to talk to my parents." Domik and Elena listened, both amazed and moved. They don't understand what happened, but they know that they have been given a second chance with their beloved daughter. At the hospital, doctors were stunned by Minna's case. They conducted many tests and closely monitored her condition. The results showed that Minna had completely recovered from the disease. The disease, which was previously thought to be incurable, The doctor, who was in charge of Minna's case, couldn't believe his eyes when he saw the test results. "This can't be explained," the doctor said to Domik and Elena, their faces still confused. All the indicators showed that Minna was completely healthy, with no signs of illness at all. The news of Minna's miraculous resurrection quickly spread throughout the village. Many people come to visit, bringing flowers and gifts, wanting to witness the miracle with their own eyes. The small village suddenly became the focus of attention of the whole country. Scientists, doctors, and even paranormal researchers have all rushed to learn about Minna's case. They offer many theories, from the Lazarus phenomenon, a condition in which a person who is thought to be dead suddenly comes back to life, to explanations for spiritual energy. The professor, a leading expert on near-death phenomena, personally visited Minna's family to find out about the incident. He spent hours chatting with Minna, trying to capture every detail of her experience. "This is a very special case," the professor remarked. "We have heard of many near-death cases, but the fact that a soul can enter an animal to communicate and then return to the body is far beyond our current understanding of life and death." Meanwhile, Minna's family can only thank heaven and earth for the miracle that happened to them. They don't care about any scientific or spiritual reason behind this. For them, the most important thing is that Minna has returned healthy and full of vitality. When Minna fully recovered and was discharged from the hospital, the whole village held a large Thanksgiving ceremony at the temple. The monk presided over the ceremony, with the participation of Ms. Hahn and many other religious dignitaries in the region. During the ceremony, Minna stood in front of everyone to recount her experience. She talked about the peace she felt when she met her grandmother, about the fear of having to go back, and about the boundless love for her parents that brought her back. "When I flew high, I saw a warm light," Minna said in a clear voice that echoed throughout the temple. "Then I met my grandmother. She hugged me, saying that I had a lot of work to do on earth. I didn't want to leave her, but she told me I needed her. When I came back, I found that I couldn't get into my body. I was scared, and then I saw the black crow." Minna's story brought many people to tears. They began to look back at their lives, cherish the moments with their loved ones more, and live better every day. Since that day, every time a black crow flies by, the villagers no longer consider it a bad spot. Instead, they smile and remember the miraculous story of little Minna, who crossed the realm between life and death to return to her loved ones. Minna, a little girl, now cherishes every moment of life. She often tells people to live and love each other now, because life is more precious than anything we can imagine. The story of baby Minna and the black crow became a legend that was passed down through generations, reminding people of the power of love, faith, and the miracles that can happen in life. However, not everyone believes this story. There are skeptics, thinking that this is just a sophisticated hoax. They ask many questions. How can a soul enter the crow? Why did Minna recover so miraculously? A team of scientists and doctors decided to conduct an extensive investigation into Minna's case. They interviewed everyone present at the funeral, scrutinizing Minna's medical records before and after her resurrection. They even conducted DNA tests to make sure that the current Minna was the same as the old Minna. The professor, a leading expert in molecular biology, spent months studying Minna's cell samples. The results surprised her. "We found that Minna's cells have a special ability to repair themselves," the professor told a news conference. "This may explain her miraculous recovery. However, we have not yet been able to explain the cause of this phenomenon." While scientists are trying to find the answer, the lives of the Minna family have changed completely. They became the focus of the country's attention, with hundreds of reporters and visitors flocking to the village. Every day, Domik and Elena, who were ordinary farmers, now have to learn to face the public eye. They try to protect Minna from media pressure, but at the same time want to share their daughter's magical story with the world. "We just want people to know that miracles are real," Domik said in an interview. "We have received the most precious gift. Our daughter has returned. We hope this story will bring hope to those who are facing loss and grief." Minna, even though she was only 8 years old, suddenly became a symbol of hope and faith. She was invited to speak at hospitals, schools, and even international conferences on spirituality and science. A year after the miraculous event, Minna stood on the stage of a large conference on science and spirituality held in Hanoi, in front of thousands of spectators. She shared, "I don't know why I was given a second chance, but I know that life is a precious gift. We should cherish every moment, love those around us, and always believe in miracles." Minna's words touched the hearts of millions of people. Her story has become the inspiration for many works of art, from books, movies to music. However, along with popularity, Minna's family also faces many challenges. There are people who try to take advantage of Minna's story for profit. Some extremist religious groups even claim Minna to be the Messiah and try to involve her in their activities. Mr. Domick and Elena had to work hard to protect their daughter from these negative influences. They decide to move to a bigger city where Minna can have a more normal and better protected life. Meanwhile, research into Minna's case continues. Scientists from all over the world flock to Vietnam to learn about this phenomenon. They hope that unraveling the mystery of Minna's resurrection can open up new insights into life and death. Professor Takashi Yamoto, a well-known researcher on the phenomenon of near-death from Japan, spent 3 years studying Minna's case. He developed a new theory of the intermediate state between life and death. "We believe that there is a short period of time after the body stops working, when the soul is still connected to the physical world," Professor Yamoto explained. In Minna's case, it seems that she has found a way to maintain that connection through the crow, allowing her to return to her body. Professor Yamoto's theory caused a lot of controversy in the scientific community. Many people think that it is too speculative and lacks empirical evidence. However, it also opened up a new direction of research, spurring many research projects on the connection between mind and matter. While scientists are trying to decipher the mystery, Minna has entered her teenage years. She is now 13 years old, still retaining her purity and gratitude for life. However, she also began to ask many questions about her experience. "I often wonder why I was chosen," Minna confides in her parents one evening. "Why are you being given a second chance when so many others aren't?" Domick and Elena didn't know how to answer their daughter. They just hugged Minna tightly and said that they loved her dearly, no matter what the reason for bringing her back to them. When Minna turned 15, she began to experience strange changes. Sometimes she felt she could understand the voices of animals, especially crows. She also began to have strange dreams in which she found herself hovering in the sky like a bird. Initially, Minna kept these experiences private, fearing that people would think she was weird. But in the end, she decided to share with her parents and researchers who were following her case. The professor, who has been studying Minna since her resurrection, is extremely interested in this new information. She proposes a series of new tests to find out if Minna's near-death experience may have triggered some latent possibilities in her brain. "We know that humans only use a small part of their brain's capabilities," the professor explained. "It's possible that Minna's experience has opened up new neural connections, allowing her to access possibilities that most of us can't." While the scientists continue their research, Minna must learn to live with her new abilities. She began to spend more time in nature, especially with crows. She discovers that she can communicate with them to some extent, not verbally but emotionally and visually. One day, while sitting in a park near her home, Minna noticed a crow in trouble. It appeared to be injured and could not fly. Minna approached, and somehow she knew exactly where it was hurting and how to help it. She gently picked up the crow, took it home and took care of it. During this process, Minna felt a deep connection with the animal, as if she could feel its thoughts and feelings. This incident not only attracted the attention of scientists but also the whole community. Many people started bringing injured animals to Minna, hoping that she could help them. Minna becomes an informal type of veterinarian, using her special abilities to help animals. However, not everyone sees Minna's ability positively. Some people think she is a witch or practicing black magic. They ask the authorities to investigate and stop her activities. Domick and Elena once again faced pressure from the public. They try to protect their daughter from criticism and threats, and encourage Minna to use her abilities responsibly. "I have a special gift," Mr. Domick told his daughter. "But with that gift also comes responsibility. You have to use it to do good, and at the same time be careful not to cause fear or misunderstanding." Minna nodded, understanding her father's words. She decided to use her abilities more cautiously, only helping those cases that were really necessary and always under the supervision of medical professionals. When Minna turned 18, she became a symbol of hope and wonder, not only in Vietnam but all over the world. The story of the girl who rose from the dead and was able to communicate with animals has inspired millions of people. Minna decided to use her voice to raise awareness about environmental protection and animal welfare. She is involved in campaigns to protect forests, fight poaching, and improve living conditions for animals. "When I died, I learned that all life is valuable," Minna said in a speech at the United Nations. "Every life, whether human or animal, deserves to be respected and protected. We need to recognize the connection between all living things on this earth." Minna's words had a great impact. Many countries have begun to adopt new laws on animal protection and the environment. Animal rights organizations around the world invited Minna to be a goodwill ambassador, hoping that her story and exceptional abilities would help raise public awareness. However, with her growing popularity, Minna also faced many new challenges. She began to feel pressure from people's expectations. Sometimes she wished she was just an ordinary girl, not having to shoulder such a big responsibility. One night after a day of participating in public welfare activities, Minna sat alone in her room, looking out the window. Suddenly, a black crow flew to perch on the windowsill. He looked at Minna with black eyes, as if trying to convey something. Minna closed her eyes, focusing on the feeling of connection with the crow in her mind. An image appeared, a picture of herself, but an 8-year-old version lying in the coffin. She saw her soul soar, merge into the crow, and then return to her body. When she opened her eyes, Minna suddenly understood something. She was not the chosen one or had a special mission. She was just a lucky girl given a second chance to live, to love and do good things for the world. With this new awareness, Minna felt like a burden that had just been lifted from her shoulders. She smiled at the crow, whispered a thank you, and watched it fly away into the night. From that day on, Minna continued her work with a new mindset. She no longer feels pressure to be a symbol or a hero. Instead, she is simply a human being, striving to live a meaningful life and make positive changes in her abilities. Minna's story, from an 8-year-old girl coming back from the dead to an adult woman with special abilities, has become a legend. It's not just a story of miracles or science, but also a story of love, courage, and the power of faith. Every time they see a black crow, the villagers and many other parts of the world smile and remember Minna's miraculous story. They remember that life is a precious gift, that love can transcend both the boundaries of life and death, and that each person has the ability to create miracles in his or her life.